So on today's episode, I wanted to talk about something a little bit controversial, maybe. I wanted to talk about why I hate roll racing. You ever notice that when you go on YouTube and you start searching Challenger RT versus Mustang GT, or Challenger RT versus Scat Pack, or Challenger RT versus Camaro, instead of getting an awesome race from a dig, what you end up with is something like this.
1, 2, 3.
You know those videos? So today I wanted to undress why I really don't like roll racing, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it. What do you guys think of roll racing? So reason number one why I hate roll racing is the Hemi's torque curve. Now, I know you guys know just from driving them, but have you ever actually stopped and looked at a dyno graph? And I'm not talking about looked at the numbers of what is the peak horsepower and peak torque that your RT or your Scat Pack made. I'm talking about looked at the shape of the curve and where the power comes in and the power is made on these modern Hemis. For example, I have my dyno sheet here from the last time I went in and got dyno tuned after I got my headers done. And what my dyno sheet tells me is, you see this curve up here, that's your torque curve. All right. So if you'll notice on this dyno sheet, just above 4 grand is where my absolute max is for my torque, which on my runs peaked at 406 pound-feet to the rear wheels. But the thing is, the Hemi puts down a lot of torque really quickly in the torque curve. If you notice, even at 2,500 RPM, you're still making 325 pound-feet of torque to the rear wheels, which is a ton right off the line. 325 pound-feet of torque immediately off the line. Okay, now for comparison's sake, I pulled a dyno chart for a totally stock 2015 Mustang GT. I figured this was a pretty good comparison because torque and power-wise, they're fairly close to rated to what my car currently is at the flywheel after the headers. They have 435 horsepower and 400 foot-pounds of torque stock. So I figured it would be a fairly good comparison to illustrate my point. So on this dyno chart, the Mustang, if you'll notice, at 2,500 RPM is only making 80 horsepower and 170 foot-pounds of torque. If you compare that with the Hemi, we're making 170 horsepower and 320 foot-pounds of torque at 2,500 RPM. We're absolutely killing the Mustang off the line. But that's how the Mustang is designed. The Mustang really thrives and really shines in the upper RPM range. The higher RPM range is where they're making their power. Whereas if you were to race that same Mustang off the line, you will kill him off the line, and then he'll be catching up to you as the race goes. But if you start at a roll, you're immediately at a disadvantage because you're already in the range where your Hemi doesn't really excel at. It's okay, but you're missing the meat and potatoes of what makes your car great. Now, the second reason I really don't like roll racing is because people say they do it so that it's a fair race because they're already going, so they can't spin. Well, I mean, if you're in a Hemi, you can spin damn near going at any speed. Your chances of spinning out aren't that great. They figure it's a cleaner launch between the two cars. Now, to me, that just sounds like it's hard to get a good launch with my car because there's a lot of power down low. So I'm just going to skip that part to do something easier, which is the reason I love drag racing so much, because drag racing, a high power car is freaking hard to do. That's why you'll see auto journalists and car reviewers take Hellcats and take Demons out, and they try to use launch control and they try to get out of the hole clean. They can't. It takes practice. It's hard to do. Same thing with any of the Hemi cars. Same thing with the 5.7 Challengers. Same thing with the 6.4 Challengers. Same thing with the 6.1 Challengers. So when I hear people say that they think it's more of a fair race if it's roll racing, to me, I just kind of hear, well, I don't want to practice launching my car, so I'm just going to skip that part and run my car at a disadvantage where it's not as strong on the power band against another car. To me. The third reason I really don't like roll racing is because one guy always has a very distinct advantage. It's usually the guy that honks, right? So the one guy always says, we'll go on 3, and then honk, 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 and they take off. That guy who is honking knows when that third honk is coming, and he's already putting his foot in it as his hand is going to touch the steering wheel. Now, it might seem not much of an advantage to get a bit of a jump, like maybe a fender out on one car, but that's a huge advantage. In drag racing, if you're going head to head with somebody else and they kill you on the tree to get a half a car advantage or like up to the door of a car advantage on you, that's a lot of extra power that you have to be making to overcome that and then beat that guy down the road, down the track. And the same thing goes for roll racing. If that guy gets ahead of you right off the hop because he knows when that third honk is coming, to beat him, you have to be not only just as fast as him, you have to be quite a bit faster than him to pull that extra distance on him. And if you don't have a really powerful car up top, it might take you quite a long time to make that distance where you finally pull ahead of that guy. So that's one big reason why I really don't like roll racing. That advantage is huge. And for any of you guys that do a lot of drag racing or racing out at the track, you totally get what I mean. When you nail somebody at the tree, you can beat a lot of way faster cars that way just by beating them off the line, because by the time you hit that quarter-mile space, they can't make up that extra time that they were sleeping at the tree. And even though you've got maybe not as quick of a car as them, you still beat them in the quarter mile. And the same goes for roll racing. And guys, the last reason I really don't like roll racing is generally the video quality on any of the videos that you see out there with two guys roll racing really, really sucks. And I find it super annoying. You guys know the ones I'm talking about, right? It's pitch black out. They're always doing it at night on a highway where there's no light. You can't see the car beside the guy. All you can see is a tail light and sort of a headlight. You can't even really make out what the car is because the camera, which is usually just a phone and doesn't shoot well in low light anyway, is bouncing around because the guy's got a shaky hand. And on top of that, he's shooting out the driver's side window, whether it's the driver himself or his passenger is putting the phone over so it's shooting out the window. You can't even tell which car is which in a lot of these races. I've watched a couple of them where I can't even tell which car is which until way later in the race. Then I'm like, oh, that was the Corvette that he was racing. Once I see a full view of the guy's taillights, and then, okay, now I get what he was racing. That's really annoying. Do you agree with me? Do you not like roll racing? Do you like roll racing? Would you rather be drag racing? Do you think that both of those are stupid and you'd rather take your car out to a track doing road course racing anyway? Or do you just not really care and you'd run your car really anywhere against anybody, just have fun and enjoy your car? Let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree with me, or maybe there's something that I'm missing the point to that really makes roll racing kind of fun for you guys. Anyways, guys, hope you're staying safe out there, and we'll catch you later.